Harbor Freight is a great store, and it has grown like crazy over the past few years, going from their first store in 1980 to 1,000 stores in 2019 to over 1,400 stores in 2023. One of the secrets to their success is that they not only open stores in large cities, but also in smaller towns, many of which don't have a lot of other options when it comes to tools or other products that they sell. In fact, here is a map of the last 20 stores that they either announced or opened. They're all in small towns like El Dorado, Kansas, population 13,000, or Douglas, Georgia, population 12,000, or Gardnerville, Nevada, population 6,000. But their strategy is so much bigger than that. And in this video, I'm going to explain what Harbor Freight's secret weapon is and what has allowed them to grow so much in the past few years. Harbor Freight is a unique example of retail success. While other retailers like Sears, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Best Buy are closing stores or going out of business altogether, Harbor Freight has expanded over the past few years with no signs of slowing down. So what is their secret to success, and why is it that they are thriving while others are dying? Well, it has to do with something called a tiered pricing model. And while that probably sounds like a bunch of marketing jargon, it's actually really important, and to explain it, we'll need to go back in time. In the past, if you needed to buy something, you would go to the local hardware store or general store, and they would have one option, one type of hammer, one type of nail, maybe two options if you were lucky. This changed with industrialization. Suddenly, products could be manufactured at scale, and department stores were born. One of these stores, Sears, was like the Amazon of its day. They sold everything, and I mean everything. Well, early on, companies like Sears realized that there were many types of customers who had different tastes, different priorities, and different budgets. The one-size-fits-all approach would not work for everyone, so Sears started selling multiple products in the same category and labeled them as good, better, and best. This approach allowed customers to pick the product that best fit their needs and their budget. We see tiered pricing all over today. Think of most airlines. You have first class, business class, and economy. If all you care about is getting there, you're going to choose the cheapest option. But if you want to get there in comfort and can afford the price tag, you're going to buy that first class ticket. There are a lot of other places you can see it as well. Here is a listing of cell phone plans. There are 3 different options at 3 different price points offering 3 different sets of features, but they're all cell phone plans. Here's another example, but this time for software. The base option gets you in the door, and the medium and higher level option gives you more features for people that are willing to pay for them. People love having options, and when you present 3 different alternatives as opposed to a one-size-fits-all, people are more likely to find something that they like and make a purchase. So how does Harbor Freight use this tiered pricing model in their business? Well, around 2015 or 2016, Harbor Freight introduced what they call their good, better, best strategy. Harbor Freight, for the longest time, had been known as a store that sells inexpensive and sometimes really crappy tools. That only gets you one portion of the market. But there are people out there who are interested in higher quality and more features. And that is what Harbor Freight is trying to capture. So let's look at some examples. The first are these corded angle grinders. Harbor Freight sells a few different versions. You have the 2 cheapest that are the Warrior brand at $14.99 and $19.99. Then you have the Bauer version that has more power and a guard that can be removed without a tool. Then you have the Hercules version that has all the things of the lesser versions, but is also more rugged and built out of better quality materials. If you need the angle grinder for one small job, then maybe the $14.99 version will work for you just fine. But if you want something that will have more power and last for multiple jobs or even years, then maybe you're willing to spend a little bit more for the best model. One thing is for certain though, and that is that Harbor Freight is always trying to be the low-cost leader, even with their best tools. A comparable DeWalt angle grinder from Home Depot is going to cost you $99. And so if the Hercules tool holds up as well as the DeWalt, it's definitely a better deal. Let's look at another example. Here is a photo of reciprocating saws. The Warrior brand is $49.99. There are 2 Bauer brand saws, one for $49.99 and one that is brushless for $64.99. Then there is the brushless Hercules version for $74.99. That again is more rugged with more features. And again, you have choices. Do you want more features and better durability, or are you looking at cost only? With this approach, you are much more likely to make a purchase when you have those good options. Those are just a few examples, but if you look around Harbor Freight, you're gonna see that good, better, and best strategy in those labels all over the place. Here's the thing that you need to know. These brand names themselves are a complete facade. They're all made by Harbor Freight. There is no Hercules Tool Company. There is no Warrior Tool Company. There's no Bauer Tool Company. Those are all Harbor Freight owned brands. What these different brands do psychologically is they provide for even more differentiation and distinction in the mind of the customer. You learn over time that the Hercules brand tools are great and the Warrior tools are the cheapest. It is a way for Harbor Freight to communicate something without words. Even though all the tool brands are owned by Harbor Freight and designed by Harbor Freight and probably manufactured in many of the same factories. So what does this tiered pricing model actually do for Harbor Freight, and why do I call it their secret weapon? Well, like I said before, Harbor Freight definitely has a reputation, and I think you all know what I mean. In fact, leave me a comment and tell me what your take on Harbor Freight's reputation has been, and then also let me know if your opinion has changed over the past few years. Because that's what it's really all about. It's about change. If Harbor Freight can get away from their old reputation, and if they're able to change people's perception, then new customers will come in. And not just the ones that are looking for the cheapest tools, but those that are interested in quality and those who can afford to pay for it. So what this strategy really does is allows them to grow their customer base and their market share without alienating their existing customers. They can also grow with a customer. Perhaps when you are young and poor, all you can afford is that cheapest drill, the Warrior drill. But if Harbor Freight can capture you as a customer, you will stay with Harbor Freight and you will upgrade and ultimately spend more money with them. In Harbor Freight's old model, when you outgrew the cheap tool, you outgrew Harbor Freight. The tiered pricing model can also nudge customers into spending more money. So if you go in for that cheap tool, but you notice that one that has a bit more power or a longer battery life or better materials and is only marginally more expensive, then you may just buy it. Think of it this way. If you see a better tool by itself, is it really better? Better than what? You have nothing to compare it to. By itself, it doesn't stand out, but the second you put it next to a good tool, then you notice the better tool. And then you add in the best tool next to the good and better, and it makes you want it that much more. And so maybe you're willing to pay that extra $10 or $20 or $30. And that's what Harbor Freight's looking for. Contrast that with how they sell tools at Home Depot or Lowe's. Instead of tools being organized by category or type, they're organized by brand, many of which are owned by different companies. That makes it more difficult to compare two of the same type of tool together, and you don't always know what's good or what's better or what's best without doing more research. So the good, better, and best strategy allows them to capture more market share without alienating their existing customers. It allows their customers to grow along with Harbor Freight because people can upgrade their tools over time with Harbor Freight. It also encourages customers to spend a bit more. At its heart, though, the strategy is really about capturing more market share to make more money. Now, there are still going to be some people who are diehard Milwaukee fans or diehard DeWalt fans, but if you can convince some people to switch over, and if those higher quality tools from Harbor Freight perform well on, say, a job site, you will see other people switch their tools over to Harbor Freight, because even at the highest price point, Harbor Freight is still cheaper than most of the premium tool brands. In fact, I had a conversation last year with someone from Harbor Freight's marketing department, and they mentioned that they are working hard to change people's perceptions. And offering better tools through the good, better, best strategy is the main way that they're doing that. As evidence of that, he said that 6 years ago, around 40% of their products had a 3-star rating or lower on their website. But today, only around 3% of their products have a 3-star or lower rating. Now that's great for them, and most people tell me that they have seen improved quality at Harbor Freight, but they still have a long way to change that perception in the minds of most people. In fact, for those of you who are watching who don't buy tools at Harbor Freight, what would it take for you to switch over? What would it take for you to buy a tool from Harbor Freight and not a Milwaukee or DeWalt brand tool? Leave me a comment and let me know. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that. Now, there is a downside to a tiered pricing model. People definitely like options, but have you been to a grocery store lately? In some cases, there are so many options that it can be overwhelming. 3 options is about the limit, and so a company can actually shoot themselves in the foot and sacrifice sales if there are too many options or if the options themselves are too complicated. It becomes just too hard for us to wrap our brains around, and it puts people off when things are too complicated. Another downside to this model for Harbor Freight specifically is that it's a lot to manage. It's not just one tool from one brand. You have to consider each brand, design more tools, you have to manufacture more tools, and manage it all effectively, or else it won't work, and all of that takes energy and effort and costs money. So while they may be making more money with this strategy, they're also spending more money on it. And if it doesn't work, then it's really just a waste. Now, Harbor Freight is a private company, and so we can't actually see exactly how much money that they're making. But if you judge their success on the things that we can see, things like store growth, for example, or even the crowds that hang out at a Harbor Freight on a Saturday, you can be sure that the good, better, best strategy is a winner for them and that they're making a ton of money from it. So tell me, have you ever gone into a Harbor Freight expecting to buy one thing and walked out with a slightly better, slightly more expensive version of that thing? Do you think that this strategy has helped their image? Has your opinion of Harbor Freight changed over the years? Leave me a comment and let me know. Also, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and share it with someone else who you think would find it interesting. Also, be sure to check out this playlist of Harbor Freight videos, or this video that talks about my conversation with that guy from Harbor Freight's marketing department. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.